Alright, you guys, so today I thought I'd share my thoughts on what I think about the final Marvel animated movie to be executive produced by the man, the myth, the legend himself, the late and honorable Stan Lee. Guys, the movie I'm speaking of is, of course, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, but before I get into my actual re, review of the movie, I want to start out by saying Spider-Man is the one member of the Marvel Universe that I am the least familiar with, but I do want to clarify that you do not have to be the biggest Spider-Man or Marvel expert to be able to understand the premise and the universe, no pun intended, that Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse introduces. So, basically, to begin here, the, 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 the movie opens and we're introduced to the current day Peter Parker, and in this version, Peter is now 26 years old, the blonde bachelor pretty boy, because unfortunately he still never got to get together with MJ, and basically the the hero of our story, Miles Morales, which is this sort of sheltered kid whose dad, Jeff Morales, and his mom, that they never really give her a name, or I can't remember it at this point. Either way, his parents, his dad's a cop and his mom's a nurse at the local Brooklyn or New York City hospital. So my, and Miles is basically forced to attend against his will this sort of preppy boarding school that is obviously for gifted people. And basically, guys, just to give my thoughts on Miles as a character, he's sort of the can he's similar to Peter in a lot of ways, and but instead of obviously not, well, like Peter didn't have his parents, and Miles still does. Anyway, Miles, like I said, is at first completely against going to this boarding school. In fact, he doesn't even have that much of a really close relationship with his parents. His father, Jeff Morales in particular, he is actually more close with his estranged uncle Aaron, who 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 is basically Miles's role model. And basically, guys, Miles's beginning character arc is that he obviously doesn't want to be the 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 $1 million New York prep boarding school genius. He wants to be your average Bronx boy, punk, and possibly even a rapper. However, Miles ends up going down with his uncle Aaron, who actually at the very end of the movie is actually one of the villains hired by Mr. Frisk, Big Pen, as he's referred to. But since I really can't say that accurately, I'll just stick to Mr. Frisk. His uncle Aaron is actually one of the members of the team that is set to kill this new version of Spider-Man that happens to be Miles. But now on to how Miles actually becomes Spider-Man in the first place. Mr. Fritz's whole goal throughout the entirety of the movie is to basically activate this thing called the Collider, which will have the ability to bring his beloved wife and son back to him, because they basically abandoned him after he took his vision for the Collider too far. And Miles basically runs into his dimension's version of Peter, and is basically bitten by the radioactive spider right before he sees Peter's encounter with the goblin. And because Miles is too inexperienced with his powers up until that point, it is actually his fault that his version of Spider-Man, Peter, ends up dying, and he messes up the key that Peter gives him, which is actually the key to shut down the Collider for good, but because Miles damages it right before he puts it in, that actually opens up the portal that leads to an alternate version of Peter Parker, Spider-Woman, which happens to be this girl called Gwen. This anime basically, I'm just gonna say Spider Girl because I can't remember everybody's name. Spider Porker, and this version of the Shadow Ghost from Batman the Animated Series, and together that they basically all band together to help Miles stop Mr. Frisk and ultimately make everything right in the universe again. But it's actually kind of funny how Miles in a way helps each individual person, Peter and Gwen especially, deal with the fact that Gwen let her version of Peter Parker die, and the older version of Peter from that Miles is introduced to first has basically become the definition of a failure. He's basically let himself go. He's let MJ, the love of his life, slip away, and the others, they don't really have a motivation necessarily, but but they're just there basically for support. And the more adult version of Peter Parker that almost becomes Miles's main mentor throughout the movie basically says, hey, the ultimate key to learning how to be Spider-Man and knowing that you are ready to take on the mantle of Spider-Man is to just ultimately take a leap of faith. And Miles, even though it's to the dismay of the alternate version of Peter, Gwen, and Spider Porker, and the other two members of the team, Miles ultimately does end up being able to defeat Mr. Frisk and ultimately send everybody back home and make everything right again. And even there's even a really touching moment where Jeff Morales basically uh, ha- has to tells Miles about his uncle Aaron, even though, like I said, uh, Aaron Morales, I guess that's still his last name, by the way, was actually the predator in charge of the new Spider-Man's capture. Because again, guys, in Miles' universe, the original Spider-Man before him has died because of Miles's inexperience. So, guys, overall, that's pretty much a good gist of the movie. And I do have to say that the movie does start off pretty slow, but once it gets into Miles basically mastering his spider powers, no pun intended, through basically Peter basically restricting him back to his dorm room and saying, you're not ready to be Spider-Man, and you're not strong enough to repair the collider and send us all back to our own dimension. But in the end, obviously, guys, Miles ultimately does avenge his version of Peter, as well as send all of his friendly spider counterparts back to their own worlds with a renewed faith that all it takes is a leap of faith, and that each one of them is capable of fixing the wrongs that they've done, and and even at the last 2 seconds of the movie, Miles in his spray painted black Spider-Man suit even has a friendly conversation with Officer Morales, or AKA Dad, and says, I look forward to working with you. And Spider-Man says something that Miles has always reluctantly said to Officer Jeff, and that is, I love you and I look forward to working with you in the future. So, guys, overall, I would say that this is a pretty good movie, and it's definitely worth a check out.